1st-century Roman crucifixion was an agonizing, visceral method of execution. It was a brutality reserved almost exclusively for criminals and insurrectionists. During the execution of Jesus of Nazareth on Golgotha, historical accounts capture the desperation of the event in his 7 last words, specifically in cries of, "I thirst," and my God, why hast thou forsaken me?" This brutal death represents the absolute lowest, most agonizing point in the entire Christian narrative. Billions of people still commemorate this horrific event every single year, under a bafflingly positive English title, Good Friday. Most people don't know the actual linguistic roots of that name. Even fewer understand the astronomical math required to figure out when the holiday takes place. Good Friday is inextricably locked to Easter. Easter is calculated using the spring equinox and the first full moon. Because it relies on the lunar cycle, the date wanders year after year, landing specifically on April 3rd in 2026. This wandering date caused severe chaos for early Christians. They argued over the correct time to mourn, a division that escalated into the Quartodeciman controversy, where different regions celebrated weeks apart. The math was finally standardized at the Council of Nicaea in 325 AD, where church leaders established a uniform formula to settle the debate. By settling the calendar, the bishops at Nicaea effectively synchronized the faith across the Roman Empire, taking a scattered, persecuted religion and pulling it under one central institutional authority for the first time. In Middle English, the word good carried a different primary definition. It meant holy or sacred. Linguistically, the day is actually God's Friday. Knowing what to call the day was one thing. Figuring out exactly how to physically observe a holy trauma was another challenge. The early instructions were severe. A 3rd-century document called the Didascalia Apostolorum prescribed a grueling total fast to enforce a strict physical manifestation of mourning upon believers. We get our clearest early look at these rituals from the diary of a 4th-century Spanish nun named Egeria. Her writings provide the first historical evidence of structured Holy Week practices taking place on the ground in Jerusalem. Egeria detailed 3-hour vigils and the earliest iterations of the Stations of the Cross. Believers would gather to weep, pray, and spend time venerating the physical wood of the cross. Egeria's accounts show how these rituals allowed believers to physically move through the story of the crucifixion, mapping the historical trauma onto their own bodies and the geography of the city. Over 2 millennia, that standardized mourning has expanded outward, fracturing into a massive global spectrum of cultural observance. In traditional European settings, the day remains subdued. Communities maintain quiet, somber vigils and hold to traditions of fasting. That silence contrasts with the vibrant, theatrical passion plays and processions found in South America and Spain. In places like the Philippines, the penance becomes far more visceral. Believers undergo public flagellation and literal crucifixion to visually and physically share in the suffering. Meanwhile, modern adaptations are creating new practices, with some communities now integrating eco-friendly, sustainable initiatives into their Good Friday observances. Whether through silent prayer or bloody reenactment, every culture uses the weight of its own traditions to wrestle with the exact same historical event. At its core, Good Friday is an observance of an unjust and horrific death. But in Christian theology, this darkness is a structural necessity. There can be no good news of the Easter resurrection without the heavy news of Friday's sacrifice. So the holiday acts as a silent waiting period, suspended uncomfortably between the agony of the cross and the promise of Sunday. It operates as a monument to human suffering. It exists to remind observers that redemption and forgiveness are often born directly from the darkest, most agonizing moments in history.